Hello, welcome to Blue Harvest Toys. On this video I'm going to be giving you a brief summary on what I consider the best toy company ever, Palitoy. Growing up, the Palitoy name didn't really mean a great deal. In fact, the name of the packaging of numerous Star Wars or Action Man figures was hardly noticed, as they were gleefully ripped open to snag the contents inside. Now, of course, I realise just how much influence the Palitoy name had on my formative years, as many of my favourite toys, particularly those based on Star Wars, were all made by the Leicestershire-based company. Nowadays, the Palitoy name is big business, with collectors willing to pay large money for that all-important logo. Take the Star Wars auction at Vectis, in which Boba Fett figure sold for an incredible £18,000. In some ways it wasn't the figure that people were paying for, it was the name of the blister pack, because the Palitoy logo was slightly unusually compared to most of the common examples. Now, auctioneers are crying out for those original Palitoy Star Wars figures because there simply aren't enough to go around. Once again, another testament to the company's influence. Before I move on to the history of the Palitoy, it's worth mentioning that the interest in the company is still so high that urban legends around it are in abundance. One of the most engaging is that when the factory closed, hundreds, if not thousands, of Star Wars figures were sent to a landfill. Many have tried to pinpoint where the landfill might be, just in case the figures have somehow survived. Now, this may sound fanciful, but a similar rumour did the rounds around the Atari's E.T. video game, released in 1982. Atari had high hopes for this game, as it was based on the hugely popular Spielberg film, and manufactured 5 million cartridges. Sadly, only 1.5 million were sold, and the rest had to be sent to landfill. Incredibly, the landfill site was located, and 1,300 of the original 700,000 cartridges were discovered, with others buried too deep to excavate. So some urgent legends are true. Time to get your metal detectors out, everyone. Although Palitoy is best known for Action Man and Star Wars, the company history dates back to 1919, when, at the age of 18, founder Alfred Pallet decided to set up a company to manufacture celluloid and plastic fancy goods, including a small amount of toys. Originally, the firm was known as Castelloid Limited, and the progress was exceptionally slow. For the first year, it only made £90. Castelloid's first factory was based inside an old lodgings house in Britannia Street, Leicester. However, the company was saved, like so many early toy manufacturers, by Woolworths, who wanted cheap celluloid toys to sell in its stores. In 1920, it placed orders of several celluloid items, including a toy windmill known as the Flitterfast. A bit like Airfix, Castelloid also produced hair slides, rattles, egg timers, and other kitchen utensils. Toys were just part of the business. Things were going well until a fire in September 1927, which destroyed the Britannia Street factory, along with an entire stock of products and raw materials. Even worse, one worker was killed in the blaze. Despite this tragic setback, a new factory was opened 6 months later in a new location, Cobden Street, Leicester. Once in the new premises, things progressed at a rapid pace, and by 1930, Castelloid was employing 250 people and manufacturing products for Woolworths, Marks & Spencer, Boots, Rowntree's, Courtaulds and Huntley Palmer. Then in 1931, Castelloid became a subsidiary of the British Zalnite Company Limited, which specialised in plastic innovations. In fact, it was the first company to use injection moulding to make products. By 1937, new premises had to be opened in Colville on the site of the Billiard Dance Hall. That same year, the Palitoy Playthings trademark began to be used on a new range of soft-bodied dolls. Throughout the 1940s and 50s, Castelloid continued to add to its toy range and began producing push and pull along toys, squeaky baby toys, model vehicles, fancy dress costumes, board games, and even table tennis sets. However, it was really in the mid-1960s that saw the company rise to new levels, thanks to the introduction of Tiny Tears dolls in 1965 and then Action Man a year later. Now trading as Palitoy, the company fought off fierce competition from Line Brothers to acquire the production rights to create toys based on Hasbro's exceptional G.I. Joe line of boys' dolls. The story goes that Palitoy sales director Hal Belton bought his grandson a G.I. Joe figure during a trip to the States, and once he realised how much his grandson loved it, he quickly took the toy into work to show general manager Miles Fletcher. Initially, there was some concerns about whether boys would play with a doll, and in fact the term was banned when discussing the range. Despite this, Action Man was launched in 1966, and although at first they were just repackaged G.I. Joes, in the 1970s Palitoy began producing its own British-themed figures. In 1968, the Palitoy division was sold to American company General Mills Incorporated, which, despite being a food company, had diversified into consumer products with the acquisition of Parker Brothers and Kenner. This link with Kenner led to one of the most important periods of Palitoy's history, and after sub-licensing the Star Wars rights from Kenner, it began releasing Star Wars toys in 1978. By November 1978, the company had grown with 1,000 employees and sales topped £20 million. The demand, in particular, for Star Wars products was phenomenal, and initially the company struggled to keep up. However, despite their success, the early 1980s General Mills' passion for acquiring more and more companies proved to be its undoing. In 1981, Palitoy, Denny Fisher, Chad Valley, and the recently acquired Airfix were all based at the Colville factory, and redundancies soon followed. The death knell for Palitoy sounded in 1984 though, when General Mills stopped all European production, and the company switched from manufacturing to marketing distribution for 2 years until its closure in 1986. More than 60 years of the Leicester company was brought to an end, but the name will live on for much longer. Thank you for watching. Until the next time, may the toys be with you.